Parenting is hard. It can also be rewarding, but getting through the grind to the good stuff can be a real struggle. And all of us could use some inspiration, encouragement, or just a reminder that we aren't alone on this journey. Sometimes even parents need a timeout.
Hey, welcome to Parents Time Out. This is the time during the week where we gather with other parents, share ideas, ask questions, and learn from each other. Because we know that parenting is done best in community. Because parenting can be challenging and even more difficult in isolation. We need each other. We're so glad you're here tonight. I'm Kim Botto. I lead Kids Club and Student Ministry at Crossroads, and I'm a mom and a grandma. And we're right in the middle of back to school season. And in case anybody hasn't noticed, back to school 2020 is different. Whether your kid's going to school in a school building, doing virtual school at home, or being homeschooled for the first year or the 10th, with masks, social distancing, and all the canceled extracurriculars, this school year is shaping up to be different in all kinds of ways. So to help us navigate these changes and set up our kids and ourselves as parents is a great start. We got Jon Wilson. Welcome, Jon Wilson.
Hey.
Jon is my friend, and he is an expert. He knows all about kids in schools because he is a school teacher. He just started this week his 7th year of teaching, and he's in one of his favorite spots, which is 5th grade math. Which, are you going to make math jokes tonight, Jon? You like that, don't you?
I don't know. I know we have our video coming soon to Kids Club where I make a really great math joke.
Yes, that is
triangles.
Good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that'll be out on Kids Club Facebook here soon. But Jon is also, as he said, he's a rock star Kids Club volunteer. You didn't say you're a rock star, but you do volunteer in Kids Club, and he loves to run. So, Jon, I'm so glad that you're here because parents have all kinds of questions about back to school this year. And we thought as people are hopping on, as you're all hopping on, let us know where you're from. But I'm just going to do kind of a rapid fire, just a couple questions for you. Okay? You ready about back to school?
Let's do it.
Jon, what school supply do you love the smell of?
So I love my Expo marker smell. Addicted. It's awesome.
That's kind of weird. Is that harmful?
Probably in like high doses, and my kids do use them a lot. So there's probably some fumes in the room, but I think I've built up a tolerance at this point.
I love the smell of Play-Doh. That's my favorite.
Ooh,
okay.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah. School supply you wish kids would never bring in the classroom.
So the little squishies that they like if you have one and it's to help you, that's great. But like when you set them up like the troll dolls at bingo and there's like 15 of them crowding your desk, it's a real problem. Yeah.
Do students do that?
Yeah. I on more than one occasion, there's like, you've got like 16 and you're like, yeah, some of those have to go.
Yeah, that's too many. That's too
many.
It's like the spoon collection on some people's walls. My grandma had a spoon.
Yeah, anything that's like that many, you're like, just put in a cabinet maybe, and just enjoy it on your own. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, here's the last question. I know that you've been purchasing a lot of masks to get ready for the school year since you'll have to be wearing them. What is the mask that you're most excited about?
So I have like all these really boring ones that I've been wearing a lot, and my one I'm super pumped about hasn't come yet, but it's an LED mask that like you can put messages on it through Bluetooth from your phone, and I'm just waiting for that because it's going to be the best. I can't wait for the day I get to wear that to school.
What will your first message be that you'll put on that mask?
Oh, see, I was hoping to have it for the first day and just something like welcome back, but since I'm already going to know them by the time I have it, I guess my hope is to have some kind of inside joke by then that I can put across that. So maybe that's my mission by Friday, is to have the inside joke to put on the mask for day one.
Yeah. Welcome back's kind of boring. I think you.
Well, you know, like if you're like scared the first day, you don't want like some funky thing going across a mask. But now we're comfortable.
True. Well, we're here tonight to talk about back to school. And Jon, one of the things, so parents, if you have any questions about back to school, I know we've got a mom of a kindergartner from Eastside that's on. We got a mom from Florence. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. And one thing that Jon wanted me to point out at the top is that These are his opinions and may not be representative of every single school teacher out there. So we want to encourage you to talk to your child's school teacher. But we think that Jon's got tons of great ideas, and many ideas that are shared by a whole bunch of teachers. So are you ready, Jon? You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
I actually have some questions for you. And you and I have talked about this. Okay, it's a brand new school year. I mean, school's all about reading and writing, right? I mean, what is your priority? It's academics, correct? For this school year? What's your priority, Jon?
I mean, just like loads and loads of work after work after work. No. So this school year, we had this really unique opportunity to kind of, I think, pause on what school is usually about. We're so focused on standards and curriculum, and that's still going to be an important part of what we do. But this is a year, I think, to focus on what I would call soft skills, perseverance, pushing through those challenges, courage, trying something new. Those are skills that we know are really important. And sometimes I even hear people kind of complaining about those lacking in students these days, but we don't often pause to teach them. And we kind of have to this year. When you have like cloth over your face all day, pushing through, not complaining, or at least like trying to be patient, it is going to be essential. So it's a really kind of authentic opportunity to teach those soft skills this year.
Yeah, and a lot of employers, like as you said, how important it is. A lot of employers said those are the things that kids are missing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if we work through those and help kids adjust to ever-changing, constantly changing schedules, that's
right.
good. That's
right.
good. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's important for parents to know that even as a school teacher, your top priority as the school year starts is not getting down the academics. We want them to feel safe and comfortable.
Right. Yeah, that's so much more important than long division right now.
That's right.
And I do teach that.
That's right. Yeah, like long division. But I think for parents, it's freeing for us to know that you as a teacher aren't saying that is a priority. Okay, we have a question from Karen Gerke. How do we deal with our kids' big emotions related to COVID and the changes in their life right now? What's the best response for parents to have?
So that's a common one. I kept thinking through what's my best response as a teacher. And what I've learned is really listening to what is it that your child is vocalizing? What is it that they're saying that they're having the most trouble with? Because then you can speak to it. I think I went in even to the first day of school thinking these are all the things that kids are going to struggle with. And I was actually kind of surprised. There were the ones like math that we all guessed correctly, but there were other things that they were struggling with that we weren't necessarily expecting. So not necessarily assuming and putting things on kids that you expect them to have trouble with and just adding to their burden, but listening to what it is that they're stressed about, what they're having anxiety about, and speaking directly to that, and just comforting them to know that it's okay to have those big feelings. I've had really big feelings this summer going into this. I've had days where I was absolutely freaking out. I'll be honest. I'm feeling a lot better these days, but I think it's okay to acknowledge that even adults are just really confused and it's hard right now. It's really tough. But that you admire anything that they're showing that is persistence, that's courage, any of those soft skills we were talking about earlier. Anytime you see those, pointing those out and saying, that's awesome. I'm really proud of you for showing those skills and trying to pull out those positives that they're showing because of the situation.
So acknowledging their feelings, and even acknowledge that we have those too, like Karen and talking to your sons. I am really disappointed that your sports season isn't going to start as we had hoped, and then move on to pointing out the positive in them.
Yeah. I think calling out, I think anytime we can call out something that's positive that a kid's showing is important. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks for the question, Karen. And then we have a question from Crystal. How do you handle a child with anxiety? And so many kids, the increase of anxiety is just going up. First grader had a really hard time last year, so you're homeschooling this year.
Yeah. So anxiety is a tough one, and I think it's really natural right now that a lot of people are experiencing it. I would say at home, you're going to be able to kind of see where that anxiety is coming up more strongly, and how to help your own child at home maybe take a break. Same kind of thing I was talking about in a classroom. So if you feel like, oh no, like now I'm responsible for their schooling, so they can't get behind. What if we miss an assignment? I'm not sure if they're doing it through like an online school or on your own, but just realizing like, your child, I can't believe I'm saying this, but when they need to just skip an assignment and get some sleep, or when they need to go run and play outside. I'm again, this is where I'm saying I might differ from other teachers, but you know what they need to reduce that anxiety. And ultimately, you have to be the advocate for what your child needs in the moment, especially right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And Crystal, way to go for noticing anxiety in your child last year and changing it up this year. Sometimes they just need a change of scenery, which might be having them homeschool, or like you said, going out to play. I also heard something the other day, the importance of deep breathing. And when we just normally breathe, we're only using like the top third of our lungs, but the bottom third of our lungs actually holds like 2/3 of the air pockets. I'll get it wrong, but so by taking deep breaths and really using your whole lung, that helps tremendously with anxiety. So deep breaths is such a great tool. Okay, we have you've got a fan club. Abby Rasmussen is saying that she hopes her kids have teachers as great as you are someday.
Aww.
I've told you before, that's my hope for my grandkids too. Okay, we have a question from Jason. Some of the best ways parents can support a teacher rather than a burden. That's a good one.
Yeah. So we are juggling a lot this year. I know parents are at home as well, but teachers, we've had quite a few new expectations, new procedures, all thrown at us at once. And so even your teacher, if they got that teacher that everyone talks about and is so on top of things, give them grace this year if they drop some balls as they're trying to juggle it all this year. I really hope my parents do that for me this year, because there's just so much more on our mind. We are going to take care of your child. We are going to make sure that they learn. But some of those other little details that we're usually on top of, there's a chance that some things might get dropped. And I would hope, and I think all teachers would ask just for patience this year, as we're doing something that we've never really done before. With that said, advocate for your child when they need it. So just ask yourself that question: is this something that I really need answers to? And of course, if it is, ask. And I know every teacher wants to help in that way.
I know one thing that you have said as you and I have talked is just how much you appreciate when parents don't make assumptions behind your motives or why you didn't grade papers on the day that you said you were, and just come directly to you. So I think that's one of the best things we can do as parents is if we have a question, don't make assumptions. Because as we partner with the teachers, our kids going to have a way better experience. And as followers of Jesus, we are to extend grace. So our teachers are a great place to do that.
And we do the same, I want to say, to parents as well this year. At least I know most teachers are of that mindset we talked about earlier. We're here to extend that grace to families as well this year, where we might have been like, hey, we had deadlines this year. It might be a little more like, we get it. Things are strange right now.
And you know what, though, you saying that, it might be a really good idea at the beginning of the year, if the teacher doesn't tell you those kind of things, you might say, like as Crystal was saying, that her kid was anxious. If your kid's being anxious, communicate to the teacher and just say, hey, is it okay if we just don't do an assignment if my kid's really having a hard time? Is that okay with you? And go ahead and get those questions out at the top. Okay, we have another question from Abby. What do parents do that isn't productive for teachers or not helpful?
This is a big one. Please, if you don't like what's happening right now in your child's school, please don't talk about it with your kids. Please, unless it's like really pertinent to them. If you disagree with some element of what procedure they've put out there, just being honest, most teachers disagree with some element of what's out there too. But we're not talking about that with kids, because honestly, it just creates stress in our classrooms when they come in and say, I honestly have not experienced this year. This is not speaking from personal experience, but I am hearing these things that teachers are saying. The kids are coming in and saying, well, my mom says this or my dad says that. And we are like just making it right now. And that's just a lot of extra stress to go, well, I understand that's your perspective, but this is what we have to do. In a lot of cases, it's the law right now.
Right. Yeah, that's because our kids are going to mimic how we are feeling.
Yes. It's that feeling too. If you are saying this is stupid, I'm angry, your school's making bad decisions, even if you feel that way, you're allowed to feel that way. Like your kid, if you say this is stupid, guess what they're going to say as soon as they walk in the door on the first day or the next day they go to school? They're going to say, this is stupid. They might not even say mom said it. It's just now their opinion that this is stupid. And it's really hard to reel that back in.
Yeah. And you know what, parents, if you find yourself doing that, find a friend, phone a friend and tell that frustration to, because your third grader or sixth grader actually should not be the person that you vent to. It's not helpful for the kid or the teacher or yourself. Okay, we've got another question. Thanks, John. That's good. How do we extend grace or show love to teachers that are less understanding than you are, not as awesome as you are, John? Or how do we explain our kids' behavior to them?
So I know for me, I'm not in necessarily a vulnerable health situation. There are a lot of teachers who are going into this year with a whole nother layer than what I'm feeling of this like potential of being sick. And so there's that chance that they have even if it's someone you may not expect, they might have some underlying condition or something where they have true fear coming to work every day in this environment with so many unknowns. So please, like, give grace this year. Again, it kind of goes back to that. There's a lot of balls going in the air. We're juggling a lot of things. I will fail at points this year too. It's really easy to sit here in a camera and sound like I have answers and things, but there are going to be times this year that I just lose it or fail at this as well. And so I think it's just important to know, like, the vast, vast, vast majority of teachers are in this to help your child. We may all experience it differently, but they want to help your kid. And for people trying to explain kids that learn differently, give as much detail about your child as possible and try to make it, what's helpful for me is seeing if you can describe kind of behaviors you see and what seems to work well with them, not trying to take opinions out of it. You can say your child's great. I love that. I actually love hearing that. But what's really, really helpful that we see is if Johnny does this, this is what works best. Because if we have to spend a few weeks trying to figure that out, that could be lost time building connection, and connection's our best way of helping kids. So tell us what works. We really want to know those things. And I don't know a teacher alive, of even the ones that have vastly different philosophies than me, that would not want to know what works for their kid.
And what's the best way to do that? Is it just, should we wait until after the first week of school, or should we send it right up at the top first day via email? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of opinions on that. If your child's teacher has expressed in any way openness to like a phone call, I think a phone call is the best way. You can kind of read a teacher's personality. You might send an email and say, hey, can we chat for 5 minutes? If you're not feeling like that's not everyone. If you don't feel like you have that open line of communication in that way, I would lean towards an email earlier, like as early as possible. If school's already started, like as soon as possible. If school's starting next week, before school starts, you don't want to give information that might make them see their child differently. Just if you know there are behaviors and you know there are things we can do to help them succeed. If we had medical information on a child, we would of course review that and make sure if we saw something like that saw a certain XYZ that we would do, or ABC, we'd do XYZ. The same thing's true for behaviors, or even just things like anxiety. Like I know that when we go to PE class, my child gets really anxious. Like that's just something that gives them anxiety. So at least we can look out for that at that time and kind of spot check the kid to see, oh, do they seem okay? Or do we need to just have a conversation about options during those times?
Yeah, and I love what you said. I want to make sure we got this as far as every teacher is different and how they want that information. So let's just ask the teacher. You
Mhm.
might just send them a short email and say, I have some things I'd like to tell you about my kid. What's the best way to do that? You want me to just email it to you, like do a phone call? I'm open.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a new school this year, and I actually don't know if I'm saying this, and I don't know if my phone in my classroom is set up to even receive calls. So like, I'm actually realizing like I might not seem that available either. So this goes back to just not assuming the worst. So if you are a parent of one of my students and you've tried to call and for some reason it didn't get to me, this is my public apology to you.
That's good. Okay. All of John's parents, try again. And I would say too, don't assume that if your child has been in that school, that the information about your child has been passed on to the next year. That teacher might not think it was important. I mean, who knows? It's really our job as parents to advocate for them. Okay, John, I've heard a lot of parents say that last spring, their kids' experience was horrible. They had a horrible spring. And now academically, they are so far behind, and they're afraid their kid is never going to catch up. And now, John, here you are saying academics isn't important at the beginning of school. So what would you say to parents who are concerned about their kid being so far behind?
Yeah, they're probably just never going to catch up. No, they'll be okay. No, I'm totally kidding. That's my humor. I would do that with students as well. Yeah, we got to have fun with these kind of questions. So I would say, first of all, let's keep in mind, literally the world fell behind. Literally the world. I teach some online classes to kids in China, actually, almost every morning. And their school shut down too. The whole world shut down. So if your child is behind, literally everyone's behind. And if you're hearing these bad experiences about what happened online, like that happened everywhere. My training, my master's degree is in building online teaching. But usually when we talk about building online teaching, it's supposed to be like 3 years of developing courses and testing it and all this. And we found out on a Thursday night that Monday we were teaching online. So it wasn't going to be perfect. It wasn't even going to be great, to be honest. But every kid got that across the world, unless they were already at home and learning in the same way. So a vast majority of kids were there. They're going to be okay. Again, lean into what they're learning in this moment. They're learning the most important skills we can teach kids right now. They'll learn long division someday. It'll be okay, or they'll figure out a way to get around it. Again, don't tell any of my students that. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. They're learning things that are important. I can't say that enough.
Yeah, and they're not going to fall behind. Like you said, everybody is that way. I had a child who missed 7 months of his 4th grade year, and he did fine. Yeah. He graduated from college and then graduated from college again. So,
and if they miss little things here and there, like, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It's okay.
That's right. I feel like John, you're giving all the parents just permission to take a big, deep breath and really focus more on our kids' mental well-being and emotional well-being.
Absolutely. Well, they're not going to do well if we don't focus on those things. Like, they're not going to thrive in life without those skills. Like, it doesn't matter how much book smart they have if they can't take those deep breaths, if they can't persist in difficult situations. Those are the things that make us, like, help us get through life.
Well, and a kid's brain, or an adult's brain too, if our brain's in a fear mode or we're anxious, we simply don't have what we need going on up there.
Right.
Let's work on getting them calm and peaceful. And
we say Maslow's before Bloom's in school. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those basic needs before Bloom's taxonomy is just a fancy thing in teaching about like higher order questioning. So we've got to get those needs taken care of first before we can even think about learning.
Absolutely. We've got another question from a working mom. Just advice for parents working from home and don't have time to monitor schoolwork while the kids are doing full-time learning.
Yeah.
Help us figure that out, John.
I need to write a book, right? That would make me lots of money, but I wish I had the answers there. It depends a lot on that remote learning and how your district's doing it. If it's the synchronous, they have to show up at a certain time. If I'm having my students work on something on a computer, I try to set expectations that are really clear. Like, if you are in it and it is working, I need you doing that. So if this is something where they're on a video chat, communicate that they're basically in a classroom at that time. That just like you couldn't get up and, go get a donut if you were in the middle of class, you can't do that in the middle of your hangout either. So trying to create a space that feels as much like a classroom as possible, even if it's just a table. It doesn't have to, I'm not saying you have to decorate the room, but have a space that is school and try to say, like, you're going to sit here and this is where you do school. If you have some flexibility, if it's not as much of that live teaching, I would say the same thing, but you actually have a little more freedom saying these are our school times. You're eventually going to go back in a classroom. Let's think about what those expectations were in a classroom and try to mimic them here, because it would be very hard to be working from home right now. So that's the best I can give you, is try to set those really clear kind of boundaries and expectations, because I think that's going to make them take it more seriously and stay focused as well.
Right. And they can even help set some of those boundaries and expectations.
Yeah.
Your kid. Yeah. I have a friend who she's getting some study groups together for her kids. So figure out who's in your circle, your quarantine circle, and they're doing some studies together. So that means they're not always at her house, and then hopefully other students will help motivate them.
I think that would happen. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to determine what's safe for your family. But I thought that was a great idea. Jon, how do we, school is, no matter what, school's different this year, no matter how you're doing it. How do we prepare our kids for it being different?
I think the biggest thing is first acknowledge it's different, not in necessarily positive or negative terms, just acknowledge what's going to be different. Try to express as much about what will be different, again, in kind of those neutral ways, but just say, hey, here's what you're going to see that might be different. And then the biggest thing is when they come home after a day of school, letting them be the ones to process that difference. I think it's almost one of those, usually we want to be proactive. We want to be a little bit of that, but I think we also want to hear what kids are processing. I think going into my first day plan, I would have been a lot more just listening. If I had to redo, yesterday was our first day with students in a building, just listening, because I actually think even yesterday I added some anxieties because of things I was talking about that kids probably weren't even that worried about. So kind of listening for what students actually need, or in this case, kids actually need, versus just assuming what they need so you don't add extra to their plate.
So basically what you're telling parents to do is maybe talk less and listen more.
Yeah. And me, I'm telling myself to do that more too.
I've done that though, where I make a way bigger deal out of something, and all of a sudden then I see my kids' anxiety will increase because of that. Kristen had a great idea. She said maybe there's a stay-at-home parent in the class that would like to make some income, and you could send them to their home for a few hours a week, and they're calling it pandemic pods. I guess that's a real thing.
I've heard of those. Yeah.
Well, Jon, we're at the end of our time. So This has flown by. Yeah, so fun. I always love being with you. And so thanks for joining us tonight. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to give to our parents?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's going to be okay this year. We are going to make it through this. This is what I would tell my students. We are going to make it through this. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but let's not ignore the moment that we're in right now and miss the learning that can happen right now. I think sometimes we're so eager to see I'm really eager to see the other end of this, that I might miss all of these things that we can learn only uniquely in a moment like this. So trying to look for those opportunities to have conversations, to call things out in your child that you might not normally have a chance to call out that are positive, uniquely because of where we are right now. So don't miss these kind of things. Don't look back and wish that you had done something differently. Well, we always will, but try to grab this moment and make it the most that it can be.
That's right. Well, Thank you so much, John. And I just encourage parents to be kind to the teachers. As you said, several times, extend grace to them. And I would say almost every teacher got into teaching because they love kids and they care about kids being the best versions of themselves. So let's look for ways that we can bless them and support them and encourage them. And as we do that, they're going to be better versions of themselves too.
Yes.
We'll instill some courage in them. So thank you so much. Lots of great ideas in the comments too. So check out the comments. And we're going to have a special edition of Parents Time Out this Sunday at 7:15. We're going to be talking about helping kids process violence and injustice. And Dr. Dwana Thompson-Lenore, who is a doctor of psychology and a therapist, she's going to be here to answer our questions. So tune in. She's awesome. She's tons of fun. And she is just so wise, just really wise. So join us for that. And parents, have a great school year. We look forward to, hearing stories about how your kids have improved in a lot of those soft skills like resiliency and flexibility. And not only your kids, how we as parents have too. Wouldn't that be nice? More flexible and resilient after this school year. So thank you, John. Good night, everybody.